Greetings, Grace Covenant, and thank you for joining me here in my studio on this second Friday in March 2022. And this is one of my favorite hymn tunes and text that has been with me for a lifetime. It has resonated with me since I was a child. And there is something about timeless texts and tunes and the way they enter into our being and come to us in times when we need them. And this is one of those hymns that is always a constant source of affirmation and strength and hope and reassurance. Our God, our help in ages past, our hope for years to come, our shelter from the stormy blast, and our eternal home. Taken from and inspired by the words of Psalm 90, from everlasting to everlasting, you are God. O God, you have been our dwelling place. So I find comfort and assurance in these words. It's easy to hear those words protecting us from the stormy blast and thinking about the war in Ukraine and the atrocities, the bombing, the hospitals, the churches, the homes that are being completely destroyed. And I know we're all taking heart as we watch the war unfold and try to find out what we can do to support. It can feel overwhelming at times. Let's face it, we've just come off of 2 years of pandemic, and now we have this war in Ukraine. We have in our own country oppressive legislation coming down on our LGBTQIA siblings, limiting the ability to engage with and support LGBTQIA youth in the school systems by not being able to say gay, by being required to out trans kids and gay kids to their parents. In Texas and in the Midwest, trans students being kept out of sports and also being considered child abuse and being investigated by the state. And it can feel all so oppressive. And so I am with you, Grace Covenant, in how heavy all of this feels. But in the midst of it all, I am reminded that throughout time, from one generation to another, God has been present. God has been a dwelling place, a source of hope and healing and strength. And we, as agents of God, created in God's image, are agents of hope and healing and strength. And we are called to do that. As I think about this hymn, one of the things that came to mind for me was just this whole idea of time. There is the stanza that reminds us that time, like an ever-rolling stream, soon bears us all away. We fly forgotten as a dream lies at the opening day. We are here but for a time, Grace Covenant, and we have work to do while we are in that time. And as I was reflecting on time, and of course, here's your little plug, this is Time Change Weekend, we will move our clocks forward. So you are welcome to join us online an hour earlier on Sunday morning, or if you plan to join us for the in-person option, make sure you set your clocks and get up early enough to be there for the prelude and not walk in during the postlude. We will love it however you choose to join us on Sunday. But let's think about this whole idea of time and our momentary place in time, and particularly, I think, how we measure time. Time is measured with celebrations and sadness. It is measured with changes of seasons. It is measured in so many different ways. I look outside my door here and the daffodils are blooming, reminding me that time has changed and it is spring and we are moving into a new time. I look around at the church. We are in Lent, another season of the church year as we continue to mark time and find our place in that time. So the church calendar helps us to keep time. the earth helps us keep time. We keep it in our own lives by marking anniversaries. I see on social media many of you posting wedding anniversaries, birthdays. For myself included, this month it will be a birthday celebration, and I will mark time in that way. And later this month, I will also mark time in a sad, melancholy way of being reminded of my partner's death 13 years ago on March the 25th. So there's so much that comes up for us as we mark time. We celebrate, we have times of sadness, or we are poignant and melancholy about some of the ways we mark time. As I'm thinking about it and sitting here with you today, it was exactly the second Friday of March 2020 that the staff sat in the fellowship hall at Grace Covenant for the last time together and determined we would not be having worship in person, that we would be working to move to an online format as the oncoming pandemic was about to strike. We had no idea of knowing that at that time that all of this time would have passed and that we would have been essentially out of the building for 2 years and worshiping in a different way. We have found that even though things change, that in this time we have been able to manage and move forward in ways we could have never imagined, and God has provided for us in ways we could have never have imagined. But I want to just say to you, as you mark time, Grace Covenant, as you find your place in time, as you find your place in what you need to do as a child of God and as a representation of the divine to provide hope and healing in this world, that you will make time for that, you will make time for self-care, and that you will continue to mark time in healthy ways and be reminded that, as we learned on Ash Wednesday, we are all dust and eventually we will return to dust. And we have that little dash between our birthday and our death date to live and to be in time in this space with the everlasting eternal God. So from the God who was and is to come, I bring you greetings and joy, even in the midst of sad and oppressive things in this world, reminding you that we have hope in a God who is eternal, who provides us a shelter, and who is the God of all time. Blessings on you, Grace Covenant. May you go forth this day and shine the light of Christ. Thanks be to God.